Good morning. It's Days with Jordan the Lion. How the hell are you today?
That's what we need. All that stuff.
Today's pair of kicks, a long lost, forgotten pair that like I said, I long lost and forgot that I had. My red Baron Davis leanings. Sometimes the best content that you can have is literally in your front yard. And for me, that's today. I've lived in the Franklin Village area for probably 7 years now. Same building, and across the street from me is a place called the Scientology Celebrity Center. It's a beautiful building, and I've always kind of just wondered what the story was because it's got dates imprinted on the building, and ironically, I've never looked it up to find out what the story was. So last night I was walking by it, and I just said, hey, I'm gonna Google that. I wanna find out what the story is. And wow, what a story. Here goes. The story kind of goes back pretty far, so I have to give you a little bit of backstory. In the early days of Hollywood, when everything was just getting started, there was a man by the name of Tom Ince. And Tom Ince was a New Yorker who had become friends with Carl Laemmle and had got involved in making motion pictures. Now, he ended up getting directing gigs and got to direct Mary Pickford in one of her pictures and impressed the people that hired him so much that they started giving him jobs and decided to help finance him to do his own thing. So he moved to California. Tom Ince was the first producer, director in California to start his own studio as far as having everything in-house. And where he did that was in the Palisade Hills, or the Palisade Heights is what it was called. He basically had the whole section, and he was responsible for making 800 Western movies. Now, Tom Ince has a really peculiar story about how he died. The medical report says that he had an ulcer and that he was eating salted almonds and was eating foods that just weren't proper for his diet. But then there's always a conspiracy, and here's the conspiracy. Tom Ince was going to sell part of his company at the time to William Randolph Hearst because William Randolph Hearst had been renting out the property so often for his own motion pictures, they just figured, well, let's make a deal. The day that they were signing the deal was actually Tom Ince's birthday. I think it was his 44th birthday. Now, he was invited to go on a yacht cruise with William Randolph Hearst, except because they were working on the deal, he missed the boat. So he ended up driving down to San Diego, hopping on the boat there, and the rumor is that he was shot by William Randolph Hearst, and the reason that they said that happened was William Randolph Hearst also had Charlie Chaplin on that cruise, and he had long suspected that Charlie Chaplin was having an affair with his girlfriend Marion Davies, and the rumor was that he mistakenly took Tom Ince, who was smoking a cigar, for Charlie Chaplin and shot him. Now here's where everything changes. Tom Ince, after he passed away, his wife inherited everything all of his money. Her name was Eleanor, and she saw the big boom in motion picture production, so she decided to start a hotel, which is the Manor Hotel. Try and tell you guys as much as I know, and here's a cool thing that they saw me filming out here and they came over and told me a little bit more history about this place. So if you see this green awning over here, this green awning is actually a restaurant. And what it was called the Renaissance Restaurant. And the guy that works here, the security guard, said that they went up to the top floor of the building at one point and they found an original menu from 1932. Filet mignon, $1.50. Here's kind of the cool thing, is that I told you guys this was kind of like a celebrity, this was for actors. Eleanor Ince opened this specifically and primarily to capitalize on the fact that she was going to have actors and wanted to give a kind of a posh place, and it ended up becoming a place that even actors that lived in this neighborhood and had their own properties, they would still come here and stay. It was so cool. You might recognize some of these names. Betty Davis lived here. Errol Flynn lived in room 211. Edward G. Robinson lived in room 216. Carol Lombard lived in room 305. Humphrey Bogart lived in room 603. Clark Gable lived in room 604. Ginger Rogers lived in room 705. Ed Sullivan lived in room 501. Gracie Allen and George Burns lived in room 609. Katharine Hepburn, George Gershwin, and Cary Grant all lived here. How incredible is that? Who would have ever known? There guys, you can see that the fountain is still there from that overview shot that I posted. Now, they've got some really incredible gargoyles and various features of the castles, of the mansions and things that were being built in that day, really to make it look palatial, which is how I'd do it too. But somewhere around the 50s, they ended up turning it into a retirement home for celebrities. And it remained that way until the 1970s when the Scientology church purchased the property, completely renovated it, and I will go across the street because I know that you're not really seeing much, but they completely renovated the property. Except when I say they completely renovated the property, what I mean is they just made everything up to code, up to standard, but they tried to keep as much as possible, from what I understand, of the original artifacts and everything that was still in the building. They've tried to restore it. There's kind of a long view of it. Now they do rent it out, even though it's a functioning Scientology center. Entourage is filmed here, Felicity's filmed here, Austin Powers 2, I think, was filmed there. Some of it was filmed there. But right across the street is this building. Now this is they're renovating it, so it's not really that impressive, and I'll get a better shot. This was called the Via Carlotta. Now it's a really, they really haven't changed this at all. It's still old and spooky and pretty much the way it always was. My friend actually went in and applied for an apartment there and said it was like a 3 or 5 year wait. But now, you know, regular people live there, but what it was before was it was a servant's quarters for the people that worked across the street. Now the security guard that worked there that came over and talked to me a little bit ago, he told me that there was actually a tunnel that connected this building to Via Carlotta so that the servants didn't have to cross the street, and that the city has actually closed it down. That's the front view of the Via Carlotta. I really had a fascination with tunnels back in the 20s and 30s. Finding out after that Houdini trip the other day. Now if you see that green building over there, I'll try and get a better shot of it. It looks like kind of a greenhouse, but what it actually is, because I've been in there, is it's like a little theater. They have nice seating and a stage and a theater and everything. And you know, actually, I watched part of the Super Bowl over there one year. One of the pizza places here that's kind of gourmet was the sponsor of the event, so I went over there just to check it out, and I had a pretty good time, to be honest with you. Really nice, nice place. Nobody really bothered me. Everybody was really cool about everything. There's a better view of that little auditorium marina thingy I was telling you about. It's pretty beautiful. It's all glass. So now I'm gonna head around and try and give you guys like a 365 of the whole building. It's pretty amazing. History is what really blows my mind. All the famous people that lived here. Wow. That's the front of that little theater I was telling you about. That's kind of the back view. Look how high up that goes. I mean, it's pretty architecturally magnificent. And it takes up, I mean, it literally takes up the entire block. From Bronson to Tamarind to Franklin to DeLongpre or whatever it is, Yucca that I live on. It takes the entire block. This is a massive palace. Here's the parking structure and a little bit more of the building. To be honest, I'm really glad that somebody took over that place that appreciates it. Now that I know what the history is of it, I mean, especially like you guys follow my vlog, so you know how much just destruction and crane technique, Karate Kid crane action, and I'm looking at it right now. I'm gonna stop this video and show you right now what I'm looking at. Look, all that crane, that's what you see. So to me, I love the fact that somebody owns this place now that didn't demolish it and make some hideous new building, and that they actually went and tried to make it as authentic as they could while preserving this great history. I mean, I know that not everybody's into the occult and things like that, but there's a part of me that always feels that when somebody's lived somewhere, that there's a part of their spirit that lingers on, and I feel like that'll probably happen with my apartment. And I just love the fact that this is still here. Those famous people had lived here, created here. One of the old Manor Hotel entrances, the service entrance. Right there. What I understand and what I've witnessed, it's a lot of celebrities come here. I mean, I've been walking out front, literally right in front of the entrance to the building with my dog, the Joster, and Juliette Lewis has come up and talked to us as she was going in, and rumor is that she used to live in my building as well. So just a fascinating little jaunt through history in my neighborhood. Like I said, sometimes it's pretty cool to find out that some place that really blows your mind is in your backyard or in your front yard. Another angle. I'll give you guys one more straight view, and then I'm going to talk to the security guard again, because he might have some more stories that I can share after this about some of the things that they know. Because if you ever want to know more about this, the ironic thing is that the church itself put out the history of this building, and you can read up on it yourself. The Manor Hotel. There you go. Check out what it used to look like. See this? They have kind of some events out here and different things, parties, but they really set it up pretty nice. But I love that old architecture, the stairwells and the proscenium, and just this magnificent building. I kind of doubt that I'll be able to find it, but what I'm gonna do when I get home is I'm gonna try and look online and see if maybe I can find a layout of this building, and maybe see where the rooms were. Maybe I can come back out here, find one of the rooms from the outside and go, hey, that was Clark Gable's room, that was Humphrey Bogart's room. Who knows? And there's the front entrance. Pretty magical. This is, this is where the chauffeured guests get dropped off, and so I would have to imagine that it was probably that same way when Clark Gable lived here. There's a parking area on the other side of the building, but I want to believe that Clark Gable was entering through this door every time. And then here's a little bit better view of the Renaissance restaurant we were talking about a little bit earlier. So the guy who worked security there told me that one of the points when he was working, an old 90-year-old man came there. He wasn't a Scientologist, but he was somebody who used to eat there at that restaurant and hang out at that place in like the 40s and 50s. And what he told him was, he said, it is an absolute fact that Charlie Chaplin used to eat there, because that guy, that old man, personally witnessed Charlie Chaplin get drunk on cocktails inside the restaurant and get up and dance on a table. He swore on his life that happened. So how cool is that? Man, interesting history. Now, one of the other things that they told me was he was pretty shocked that I knew the whole Tom Ince and Eleanor Ince story. And what he said was, he absolutely believes the story that Thomas Ince was shot by William Randolph Hearst, because he said this place wasn't finished when Tom Ince died. And they used all the money from his estate to try and finish it, and it still wasn't enough. And he said, and then ironically, if you look at all the castle as we went around it, you see all kinds of things that are really William Randolph Hearst, like the trellises, the gargoyles, the manufacturing style of the castle. He has a theory, and he might not be that off, he has a theory that he thinks that William Randolph Hearst paid to have this finished as kind of a I'm sorry I accidentally shot your husband kind of thing. Like I said, he strongly believed, everybody reports this, that William Randolph Hearst strongly believed that Charlie Chaplin was having an affair with Marion Davies, And from the back, they have the same hat. Apparently Tom Ince and Charlie Chaplin were built the same way, and they were wearing the same hat on that trip. And when you're William Randolph Hearst and you have a lot of money, you know, they also say there was never an autopsy for Thomas Ince. So there's just a lot that doesn't add up. So there's a fascinating history to this building and a lot of folklore that goes with it as well. All right, I'm over here hanging out with Eric Carter because we're gonna go do some open mics. And he just pointed out something. We're at a friend's house and he showed me this house.
That greenhouse, that yellow umbrella, that was Kurt Cobain's house, him and Courtney Love's, when their daughter Frances was born. That's their LA home. I don't know if he had it until he died. I don't know that much, but I do know, you know, he had it for at least a few years.
Wow.
So yeah, it's right up there.
There's also a pretty cool like lighthouse over here, isn't there?
Lighthouse, I think, I don't know if
Tonight, we're signing up to try and do the open mic at the Improv. And there's gonna be a ton of people, I'm sure.
It's like leaving room for
Welcome to Melrose Avenue. And there's a night view. Vlog over.